back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Alt Kings podcast. I'm your host, Tate, and today I have the honor of speaking with Topachi, one of the founders of Hsuite. How you doing today, man?
Doing very well, thanks. And thanks a lot for having me into your podcast.
Very happy to have you here today. It's been a long time in the making. I've been reaching out for a couple months now, and I'm very happy to finally be able to host you. And so, my first question to you would be what is the vision for Hsuite? And, what do you hope to achieve with the platform?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks a lot. So we at HBAR Suite, we basically created a suite of DeFi services based on Hedera network, which allow you to have decentralized finance protocols in a smart contractless manner. So what we basically did is create this core technology called Smart Node technology, which aims to replace smart contracts. And on top of this technology, in the past year and a half, we have been building showcase features such as a decentralized exchange with zero slippage, smart rebalance market maker. We made an NFT DEX, a NFT launchpad, a fungible token launchpad, a DAO engine where people are able to create their own DAOs, create their own proposals, vote on proposals, and as well as a multi-signature app feature where people are able to create multi-signature wallets. So we basically made all those showcase features to show people that the potential of the smart node technology is very limitless to a certain extent. And our final goal would eventually be to have developers onboarding into Hedera in this case and be able to build using our smart node technology, so that they may be able to build their own DEX, for example, or their own launchpad, or whatever kind of feature or service that could be used alongside the smart node technology.
Nice. Yeah, I know one of my favorite features that you guys do have on Hsuite is the DAO feature. We do use that over here at the Alt Kings as well as part of Royal Labs, our parent company. And I believe, that DAO feature is very unique for the space, especially on Hedera, but it allows, the community to engage with, whatever the founders desire them to interact with and, either vote upon, either have, yes or no questions, just different ways of approaching, getting the community engaged more to interact with how they, expand and grow the community as a whole. And I think that DAO, the DAO tab within Hsuite does great things for that, in my opinion. Apache, I think you might be muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. Yeah, definitely the DAO feature is also a very important feature for the Hedera space, because I believe to this day there is not a real protocol or standard just yet that allows projects, communities, or creators in order to create proposals and feature of certain manner. And we actually allow a couple different ways of managing a DAO, which may be either through holding an NFT, so which means that you could set up your DAO by having like a protocol where as long as you hold one NFT, your vote counts as one, for example, or the more NFTs you have or the more fungible tokens you have, the more voting power you have, if you wish to incentivize a sort of increasing the holding of the value of the project and users, as well as creating also a council model, limited DAO based, which means that the project will also create a model where you have a council and then you have the community voting, and which means that, for example, if a community user wishes to write a proposal and pass it through a DAO, it has to be approved or rejected first by the council, and then only if approved by the council, only then would pass through a public vote. And
Nice.
so this is like the basic that we also inspired ourselves from some other Ethereum protocol standards.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I do think it's awesome where, say, if you do hold more NFTs, your vote weighs more than just holding, one. that, incentivizes, the whales of these communities to have more of a reach, and, their vote has more power behind it because they hold more of the NFTs and they've invested more into the project. That alone, is going to really set the bar for how people approach voting, as well as how people approach, investing into projects that they truly believe that it is a successful project long term. They'll potentially scoop up more NFTs, and then their voting power would be much higher for, whatever voting would be necessary for that DAO. And I'd really love to transition into, Hedera. I know you mentioned it a little earlier, but, why did, you choose to build Hsuite on Hedera? And what were the benefits of using Hedera for a DeFi platform?
Yeah, so it's actually a very cool story because me and my other co-founder, Tomachi, we basically been into the Hedera ecosystem for quite a few years now, and we since the inception of Hedera, even before HBAR hit the crypto markets, we were really fascinated with Dr. Lemon's Bird lectures, who is one of the creators and inventors of the hash graph consensus algorithm. We were super fascinated by this technology and the way it was expressing the possible utilization, which also was related to the fact that with using Hedera, such as the services of the Hedera, like Hedera Consensus Service, the token service, or the file service, you didn't really need the use of smart contracts. And those were like the first videos that Dr. Lemon released into the public back in 2017, more or less, when he had some Harvard lectures and he was explaining a few key differences to creating what it can be called an AppNet against just like deploying a smart contract. So what happened was, about 6 months before there was still no smart contracts on Hedera, me and my other partner, Tomachi, we took the challenge upon our hands, and we said, okay, so Dr. Lemon is saying that we don't need smart contracts to build applications on Hedera. So you know what? We're going to do what Dr. Lemon has always said and always mentioned. And this was when there was no smart contracts just yet. So what happened is we started building this technology called the smart nodes, which aims to be the standard framework for external projects to eventually build appnets. And the concept of appnet is basically means application network, which in our case we are building as a DApp. So technically speaking, we are building a DAppNet framework, which allows you to create a decentralized application. And the decentralized part comes from the fact that our smart nodes are there are many different ones that can be deployed, whether into local computing environments or cloud computing environments. And we will eventually have also smart node validators released to the public, which means that some of the community members which hold a certain amount of Hsuite, which right now is set to at least 10 million Hsuite, which is our utility token and governance token, will be able to host a smart node. And we will make it so that people will be able to run it on, for example, on Google Cloud, or eventually have the option of running it locally on your computer and even be more decentralized.
Nice. That sounds amazing. And I mean, it's like you said, it's going to create a way of becoming much more decentralized and staying a part of, say, Hsuite or any other, DEX out there. It's going to really just make it where it's your very own rather than being a part of somebody else's entity. And I think that's a really smart approach. That really just, evolves and expands the whole entire concept behind decentralization to a new, standard. And it allows people to be able to really do what they want, how they want to, whenever they want to, with no restrictions, as long as you understand how to develop on a DApp, a decentralized application.
Exactly, correct.
Nice. So, we kind of dabbled into some of the features that, Hsuite has developed and has already, has already really brought to life to an extent. What are some of the new features that you're most excited about, and how do you think these features will benefit the users utilizing Hsuite today?
Well, some of the features that I can name that I believe they're really important for the header ecosystem. One of them, which we recently released as a new feature, is the multi-signature wallet creator feature, which is basically this feature where you go to our website in the tab, and once you log in, you're actually able to create a multi-signature wallet on Hedera with your friends, family, business partners, whatever the case may be. And it's really important because up to this day, there has not really been anything like that built into the ecosystem in a way that allows users to have a seamless experience into doing so. And we took inspiration on a user experience level from a multi-sig application called Gnosis Safe, which is a very, very popular into the Ethereum network. And we basically took inspiration from it, and we, of course, adapted it for the Hedera functionalities. So how basically works in short term is that you just log in with your wallet into the app, go to the multi-signature feature, you just go to create new wallet, and what happens is you'll have a list where you can select the wallet name, and then you can add wallet owners, which means like you can add the wallets of those who will be able to sign transactions. And it's really cool because you can have a list of wallets, account IDs of people, whether they are friends or family, that you wish them to be part of. And for the initial wallet creation, you don't even need them to agree on creating this wallet. But once you create this wallet, then like if you wish to perform any operation like a token withdrawal or a token association or any kind of this action, you will eventually need the approval of those other people wallets, which they have to be connected into the app so that they receive the notification of the new pending transaction. But yeah, this one is pretty simple, straightforward, and we also created a step-by-step tutorials documentation which explains exactly how you can create a wallet, and then like how you manage it to increase like a threshold. For example, like if you have 5 people inside this multi-signature wallet, you can have a threshold of 3 out of 5, which means that at least 3 people have to approve a transaction in order to perform, or it could be more, it could be less, could be updated. And yeah, this is very important for many projects in the communities, so that would increase trust and transparency, especially in regards of maybe some NFT projects or some projects that don't know exactly how to make sure that the funds are safe in a manner, which until now, most of them, you had to have trust into the project when they were inside a single account. That said, we at Hsuite utilized the multi-signature technology since like the real inception when we started the project, but we did it through a backend app with our treasury committees. So it was kind of a little more complex for the beginner user, and we just made now with a nice user interface so that it's much simpler to manage. And we are now using it ourselves. We are transitioning to a multi-signature feature for our wallets so that we can use the user interface as well. But regarding another important feature that we believe is very important to have known and spread awareness on is our decentralized exchange, which is completely native on Hedera. And a few key differences that you could see between our DEX compared to other smart contract DEXs based on Hedera is that, for example, when you perform a swap on a smart contract DEX as of today, you will have to perform two transactions. The first transaction will be a token allowance approval, and the second transaction will be the actual swap. And this means that there are more fees involved, of course, double the transactions. Um, Even if smart contracts on Hedera are still fairly cheaper compared to other chains, we in our DEX, we only have one transaction, and it's a fraction of the cost because we have Hedera native fees. And moreover, by using atomic transactions on our DEX, you're able to see exactly where you're sending and what you are receiving. And there is no zero slippage whatsoever at all, and that's really important to know. Meanwhile, other smart contract DEXs, when you perform a swap and there is a smart contract execution, you don't know exactly what you're signing for, exactly what you're receiving due to also slippage as well.
Nice. So, with that multi-sig wallet, is that going to be integrated into Hashpack, or is that your very own wallet for Hsuite?
Well, that's a good question. So, as far as I know, our DApp is actually, the whole DApp itself is actually integrated inside the Hashpack on the DApp section. But it's the feature that we have. It's not really a wallet itself. It's just a user interface that we created that works with the smart nodes in order to people help manage their own funds, which means that when you perform transaction, you will always have to sign a transaction from your Hashpack wallet. Regardless, you have to approve from there. We did not create like a brand new wallet for the multi-sig.
Makes sense. Well, I think the multi-sig's actually really beneficial to, people creating, projects on Hedera and any other chain also potentially down the line. Just because, having that second, third, maybe fourth or fifth approval by the other founders, a part of the community, that can go a long way with, security, trust, and insurance in regards to, longevity of the project itself. And I think, making sure that the other founders, at least maybe 2 out of the 3, have to approve a transaction before it goes through. Majority rules, of course, but it's not making sure it is making sure there's no bad actors, making any malicious sort of approvals within the wallet itself or any other things as well. And I think that's a really cool approach, utilizing and bringing to life that multi-sig platform to be used within each wallet.
Yeah, it's really important because what happens is using a multi-sig lowers the liability that one single actor would have in case like their private keys or something get hacked or they decide to do something malicious. But at the same time, if something happened into the multi-sig, let's say there is 10 members, and the threshold is 6. If 6 of them decide to collide and do something malicious, malicious transactions, everybody can see that those people who are exactly the people part of the multi-sig that agreed on signing the transaction. So it also shows more transparency and accountability in case something will go wrong as well in a decentralized multi-signature environment.
That's a great point. That was kind of one of the challenges I feel as if some projects were facing. Say if they were to give the keys to a main wallet for the project to a new founder, and they might have, quote unquote, trusted that founder just a little bit because they were part of the project prior to becoming a founder. I mean, that really overlaps one of the challenges that some of these project founders might have faced, where they onboard this new founder, they give them access to the main wallet. Then the new founder does some sort of malicious attack where he just basically either drains the wallet or just takes advantage in any sort of way, shape, or form. That really restricts those possibilities and, requires more safe and structure within utilizing that wallet itself. And, speaking about some challenges, what are some of the challenges, you have faced developing out Hsuite itself, and how have you overcame these challenges as a whole?
Yeah. So during this past year and a half that we have building on a Hedera in a very native manner using the Hedera SDKs, particularly the JavaScript SDK, we have faced a few challenges, and they were related to the fact that the way that we were planning things, usually what happens is when you have a vision of how something will work, you would kind of write a high-level architecture of the functionality flow of something, and then you start breaking down into more um, lower level task nodes, and from there you try to figure out how you could implement the functionality in a way that is that it properly works with the way Hedera works, right? So
Yeah.
there have been a few instances in the past where we programmed a smart node functionality in a way that, of course, would properly work with Hedera, but then maybe we realized we found out that Hedera could have had some sort of limitation, so to speak, for what we had to build. But those were things that we overcame, those so-called limitations that we found in certain logics. We overcame thanks to also the help of the Dara team and us learning more and more about how that actually works. So any challenge that we found on our road, we were always able to overcome. And this because we have, even if we are a small development team, we have a really strong development team, and we were always able to find a way of achieving the objectives that we were pointing ourselves to get done. But yeah, all those challenges that you may face depend on how much you know about Hedera, and then once you know how the Hedera SDK works, then you can just adapt your programmability around those issues. Sometimes it could have taken a little time to readapt, sometimes took less time, or sometimes there was some Hedera mainnet upgrade that kind of changed a few things, maybe in the reading of mirror node information, the way, for example, an object was mapped. So maybe we had to perform some modification to be able, for example, to fetch a list of NFT holders or fungible token holders. But most of them were just relatively minor issues that we found along the way.
Well, that's good. There was not necessarily any major problems that came about developing out Hsuite, and only minor that were very easy to, overcome. Speaking about DeFi a little more, as Hsuite is a DeFi platform, what are your thoughts on the regulatory landscape for DeFi, maybe potentially within just the United States and even outside of the United States? I know that's probably something that's been on your mind recently with, Ripple winning that lawsuit against the SEC. And there's just a lot more regulatory clarity that needs to come for crypto adoption as a whole and to onboard mass users into this Web3 landscape.
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. So leaving the facts aside that HBAR Suite we're basically a worldwide project. When we mean by that, we people that work at HBAR Suite are some based in different parts of the world. A few of us are based in Europe. Some of them from South America or Australia. So they're a decentralized project, even when it comes to having people that work for this project, with this project, and with us. But that said, we have been self-regulated since day one as a limited DAO, and we always took upon ourselves to make sure that all the DeFi protocols and services and features that we will provide would be utilized in as much possible of a benevolous manner. And we also have a legal team which are in the talks with. We have been discussing for quite some time in regards of what's the best legal structure that HBAR Suite could leverage in order to make sure that we as a project are protected, quote unquote.
And what is that by chance?
There is nothing I can really say exactly.
Sure, no
We're
worries.
still in the talks with the legal team talking, but we're definitely very proactive into working on the regulatory and non-regulatory aspect. Most definitely.
Does Hsuite, get either, I guess one would put it, quarterly or yearly audits done on the platform itself? Or how do you go about, getting audits done to ensure security, safety, and overall trust within the platform?
So we had a total of 2 audits, security audits by Halburn Security in the past year and the last year prior, and they were majorly focused initially on the decentralized exchange, as well as all the other features as well, and also making sure that there would not be strange flaws that could make the smart nodes be subject to, for example, denial of service attacks or any kind of front-end injection as well as back-end injection. And the last audit was a few months ago, just right before going live with the DEX, and they went very well. Of course, usually the way the way the audits works is you want them to find something. Like if the auditor, code auditor, do not find anything, that means that they were not good enough, or they just didn't manage to find anything at all. And we had a few findings, which most of them were pretty much on a lower issue side of things. Thanks to the other co-founder, who's also our CTO, and he has like 20 plus years of experience into software development, architecture.
That's Tomachi?
Security. Tomachi, correct. Yeah, he's a great mastermind, and none of this, the smart node technology would have not been as solid as it is today if it wasn't for him, alongside the other developers who are underneath his wings, so to speak. And regarding the possible audits, if we implement particular improvements or drastical changing into the core smart node technology, or a particular feature such as the DEX, for example, we would definitely make sure that we would eventually perform an audit if we see that there is a major need for it. And regarding that, we would right now we're like very safe. We have been considered like very safe by Alborn. They try to perform, for example, our DEX some drain out attacks, concurrency attacks to try to unbalance liquidity pools, for example, considering that we are zero slippage, and they saw that we were working, everything was working in a really flawless and very good manner. Themselves were really surprised because they had never seen a technology, a Web3 technology such as ours. But yeah, they were really good in what they were doing, and yeah, we're happy that we chose Alborn for the past 2 audits. But yeah, in the future we would definitely see potential future audits coming through.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's very smart to at least, approach getting an audit at least once a year, just to ensure that you are, being the most secure as well as safe towards anybody who is to utilize the platform as a whole, and there's no compromises to be really noticed or able to be compromised, I guess one would put it, to any white hat or black hat hackers. I believe, isn't the white hat hackers the good guys, and then the black hat are the bad guys, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, so I guess you'd be trying to friend away from all the black hat hackers at the end of the day. But besides that, I was kind of speaking about whenever I brought up, the regulatory landscape for DeFi and how Ripple just won the lawsuit within the United States, and really just about onboarding more users to Web3 as a whole. How do you plan on making Hsuite more accessible to users who are not familiar with, blockchain technology, or in other terms for our case, just Hedera Hashgraphs technology itself?
Yeah, so one of our main key points of our roadmap B2 that we aim to achieve is to do an extended marketing. And alongside that, we also aim to have a what we call Web 2 to Web 3 bridging, which means that we're looking to onboard projects that may work on a more standard manner, whether maybe on the energy field, energy production field, or anything retail use cases that may record certain types of information. We aim to also have them use the smart node technology in a way that the final end user might not even know that they're using our technology in the case. So for us,
great.
the ideal ultimately goal for generically speaking, having a Hedera or just a crypto blockchain usage going to mass adoption is to have people use that technology without even knowing that they're using it. And we at HBAR Hsuite actually have an enterprise side of things and a community side of things. And on the enterprise side of things, we're constantly in the talks with various different projects where they could potentially leverage our smart node technology, whether for like a private use cases, if they wish to in the future having private nodes in order to handle their own infrastructure, or maybe use the community nodes depending on the kind of setup and the sort of information that they wish to pass through our technology. Because the smart node technology is basically databaseless. We are databaseless, which means that when you, for example, you go to our Launchpad or NFT exchange or anything on our the app, for example, everything that you see there, it's directly rendered from the Hedera consensus service, which means that all the information you see, we use as a database, we use Hedera itself. Nice. And that's a great advantage for people that especially want to augment transparency, and also they wish to maybe not have a single point of failure with just a regular centralized database in case that they have some sort of hacks or wherever the case may be. But at the same time, even if we're databaseless, we're able to integrate a hybrid model where, for example, if there was a government entity that wished to have certain information retained privately, they could still encrypt the information and then just have a little piece of information written in publicly into there that connects to the whole information. It's what we call like a hash, where you can verify the hash and then see from an internal side of things if the hash coincides with the actual information for veridicity purpose in this case. But there is so much potential with the smart nodes, and the fact that we're sort of perceived as competing with smart contracts, it's true, yes, but at the same time, smart contract projects, protocols of any blockchain whatsoever could actually use smart node technology as a decentralized backend. Because most of the time there are a lot of projects that, yes, they are deploying with smart contracts, and technically, yes, they may be decentralized in the sense that the code is deployed in, for example, in the Ethereum virtual machine, right? But the smart contracts themselves have what they call the Oracle problem, which generically speaking means that smart contracts can only interact inside the blockchain they were born at. They cannot grab information from other blockchain or from the outside world, whether maybe real-time information or any possible information. And the smart nodes would technically allow any smart contract protocol from any chain to interact with the outside world still in a decentralized manner. And this means that the smart nodes themselves are able to interact with any blockchain. You can interact cross-chain, on-chain, off-chain. Like, you could literally do anything with the smart nodes.
Wow. And getting the point where people are utilizing Hsuite's technology without even realizing they're utilizing it as a whole, that is, kind of where Hedera Hashgraph is trying to go as well. They want people to utilize, the Hashgraph technology without even realizing they're utilizing it. And to get to that point, that's when, you've really accomplished to an extent, not necessarily mass adoption as a whole, but adoption from the retail side rather than just the Web3 aspects. And I think that's a really smart approach that you're going about doing, trying to onboard people without them even realizing that they're using it within, the corporate and the commercial side of things as well. Very smart approach, Topachi. My final thoughts for you would be if there's any closing thoughts on your end that you'd have, but my last question would be simply, where do you see Hsuite within the future? Let's say 1 year, 3 years, and potentially even 5 years down the road.
Well, we see HBAR Suite being way more expanded than it is now, and we aim with brand awareness and extended marketing to sort of have the same goal as Hedera, which means that in the enterprise side of things, we aim to have conglomerates or perhaps even multinationals to use our technology that at the same time would also use their technology. So one of our main goals is to do this also so that the Hedera network itself could leverage from it and could expand itself from it. And we also have on the community side of things, we would love to see eventually many people running their own nodes and feeling themselves like how important the power of decentralization is, especially in a world where we are in a state of technocracy, where with artificial intelligence and all this technology taking over all the information of human beings without sometimes even realizing it, and sometimes this information is weaponized against you. And we aim to make everything as transparent as possible so that people can make a conscious choice of what they want to do, what they're able to do, if they're willing to do a certain thing, or this is the base of it, I would say, which aims to transparency, privacy friend as well, and freedom of choice, and possibly get everybody as free as possible now Web3 standpoint.
Nice. That's amazing to hear. I mean, you've been around for quite some time now. You've developed out some amazing things within Hedera Hashcraft's ecosystem, and I only look forward to what's to come with Hsuite. I know big things are in the making. Big things have already been produced, and I just look forward to it all at the end of the day. I'll forever support Hsuite as you continue to stay loyal to Hedera and potentially, branch even further outside of Hedera's ecosystem to cross-chain ventures as well. I know there was the bridging mechanism that has been released on Hsuite's platform to bridge other currencies, I believe, from, say, outside cryptocurrency ecosystems into Hedera's ecosystem, one way, shape, or form. I think that's great. But Topachi, if there's any closing thoughts that you have, now would be the time to do so. But thank you for taking the time once again.
Yeah, thanks a lot. The only thing I would like to say as an ending thought is especially regarding the people that are into crypto Web3. Like, I understand that this space is mostly joined by people that wish to make a profit and wish to make money, which is totally understandable. Like, whether they invest in something that is a utility or they just play around with some NFTs and whatnot. But it's really important when joining the spaces for me is to always question the authority behind.
Yep.
And this is for anything. Always question the authority behind the project or the authority of whatever institution, and always do your research. Always ask questions, but be polite, because sometimes what happens is people may start asking questions and it comes off the wrong way, like they're trying to bother or they're trying to FUD in a certain way. But it's more than legit to be able to ask questions and get appropriate answers. And we at HBAR Suite, especially for those who join our Discord, we are very proactive into answering any possible question whatsoever, and we're happy to share as much information as possible.
Amazing. Well, Topachi, thank you for taking the time once again. And ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, this has been the Alt Kings Podcast. And if you like this episode today, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. And we will see you on next episode. Peace.